everybody, welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I'm here to talk about the shocking news earlier today. Now, there was a lot of stuff going on today. There's been a lot of announcements, a lot of stuff. I might even make a video about a couple of the other things that have happened today. But man, the biggest thing that happened today has to be SpiderMan, the Homecoming Trilogy's director, Jon Watts, dropping out of the Fantastic Four project. Now, send your mind back in 2020. You know, we were right in the midst of the shit, and Jon Watts was announced to be the director of Fantastic Four. It was the only bit of news that we actually got on the Fantastic Four is the director, and it was Jon Watts. Now, we heard from Kevin Feige and a couple other people that this has been in the works for quite a while, that they had approached Jon Watts to wanted to direct this film while probably around the time that he was working on Far From Home. That they loved what he did with Homecoming, including me. I personally think that Spider-Man Homecoming is the best Spider-Man movie. It's the purest to the character. It's the purest to the... It's the most fun. It's the most, you know, energetic piece of the character. I make no bones about it. While I appreciate the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and Spider-Man 2 in particular, I think still holds up. I still think Spider-Man 2 holds up as a very, very good comic book movie with some really great action set pieces, especially with Doc Ock. But those films are so dated. It's dated. It's particularly Spider-Man 1. Spider-Man 3 isn't a good movie. Spider-Man 3 is just, it's not a really good movie. There's a lot of premise, there's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of good ideas in Spider-Man 3 that don't add up to be an actual good movie. Spider-Man 2 still stands up as a very good movie. I'm not sure it's the best anymore. I think Homecoming's better than it, and I think Into the Spider-Verse is better than it. But you can make an argument between, you know, I think Homecoming's better than it. I think No Way Home is better than it, and I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is better than Spider-Man 2. But after that, Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man 2, I can see, but I think Spider-Man 2 is solid. But Spider-Man 1, I think, is dated real bad. I tried to watch that a couple months ago, and like I couldn't get through the first couple scenes because there's just the dialogue is so cheesy and so over the top and ridiculous. And like when you're listening to it, when you really sit back and listen to the dialogue, you're like, what the fuck are these people saying? But I digress. I was having a hard time with that one. But I digress. Jon Watts, to me, has done a phenomenal job with this Spider-Man trilogy. To me, it's the best ensemble. Like, now, there's arguments to be made, because each of the MCU movies have their own little ecosystem ensemble that are very unique to them. And the whole Breakfast Club-esque, Ferris Bueller-ish vibe of the group of, like, because the thing is, the reason that people have a hard time, and I've talked about this before in other videos, have a hard time where some Raimi fans and some hardcore certain other Spider-Man group fans have such a hard time with the new Spider-Man is because it is a new Spider-Man. It is a modern interpretation of Spider-Man. And most of our imagination of Spider-Man is stuck in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s. This Jon Watts updated Spider-Man. And with updating Spider-Man, meaning that he changed things that people identify with the old Spider-Man. Now, I've gone on talking about how there's this guy I follow. I can't remember his name. One day I'll remember his name. I follow him on YouTube, and he does these essays on different comic book properties and whatnot, mostly movies. And he talked about how, like, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movie changed the perception of what Spider-Man actually is. Like, there are certain aspects about the Sam Raimi movie that aren't actually from the comics. Like, Uncle Ben's importance actually isn't as massive as it. When you go back and watch the cartoon, when you go back and watch some of the older stuff before the Raimi movies, you realize that while Uncle Ben was a presence and there is some beats, he's not as overarching as the Raimi movies make him out to be. And there are other aspects that the Raimi movies takes liberty with the original comics. Whereas, ironically, with all the changes that were made for the new Spider-Man trilogy that Jon Watts and Kevin Feige came up with, it's actually more in line with the original Stan Lee and Ditko run. If you go back and look up that comic, it is eerily similar to the new SpiderMan Homecoming trilogy. Right down to him idolizing an established superhero / an established superhero group. Because in the comics, in the OG comics, he was a massive over-the-top fan of the Fantastic Four. I believe the Human Torch in particular. He desperately wanted to be a member of them, but he couldn't get in. Like, seems very similar to his relationship with Tony Stark. Right down to it being more fun and more upbeat, and you know, him being in high school and what comes with that. You know what I mean? Like there are the new Spider-Man Homecoming and the new Spider-Man Homecoming trilogy, ironically, is more in line with Stan Lee and Ditko's original vision. And I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was better than the Sam Raimi trilogy, because I think there's only one good movie in the Sam Raimi trilogy, whereas all three of the Spider-Man Homecoming movies are good to great. And I was and when he got announced to work on this, I was excited because clearly he knows how to assemble a good ensemble, because all of those kids, Ned, MJ, obviously Tom Holland, but even like Flash and Betty and some of the other, and the teachers, they were so good together. Their interplay was so fun. It was so fun. And I'm happy that they're still doing that Spider-Man, freshman year, because I hope they can get some of the cast to come back and voice their characters again, so we can see, like, you know, more of the year, like his day-to-day stuff while he was in high school. Because I love, like, because dude, he had an entire teacher. All of his teachers were like comedians, were like these great comedians. So like the interplay and whatnot, and like I said, the upbeat, the tempo, the funness, like that's the thing I say. Spider-Man is a fun character. He is fun. And the new trilogy, and that's what he was gonna bring to the Fantastic Four, is fun. I know fun is something that, like, I don't understand. That for some reason, the comic book fans out there, they hear the word fun and they just start going, close the blinds. I want to go back into the dark corner of the room. But that's what Jon Watts would have brought to the new Spider-Man, to the new Fantastic Four. I knew he knew how to direct people. I knew he knew how to direct a cast and have them have fun interplay, fun dialogue, and fun, snappy dialogue. Now, what he did struggle with a bit, which I don't think was too much of a struggle because I didn't mind it, it just wasn't the most spectacular up until, like, No Way Home, is the action set pieces. But that's something that comes with, but he got better when No Way Home came out. Now, you know, I was, at first when I heard he had stepped down, I was like, what the fuck? What happened? I thought maybe it was a Scott Derrickson situation. Turns out, why Watts is stepping down is basically because he's burnt out. Basically, he just directed the three biggest Spider-Man movies of all time. He has two movies that, like, I think all three of the movies collectively have made $3 billion. Put that in perspective. Jon Watts has directed one of the biggest franchise. He's the director behind one of the biggest franchises in history. I'm pretty sure the Spider-Man Homecoming movies have a better rating and box office than the Dark Knight movies. Actually, the only trilogy of movies that the Homecoming movies are outgrossing is the Avengers and, like, what? Star Wars? But, like, the Spider-Man Homecoming trilogy is in the top 5 grossing, like, trilogies. So, like, that should just put his head in. And he's done so much, and he's worked on these movies back to back to back. He hasn't really had a break. Jon Watts, it's not like one of those things where he's gone off to do something else and then come back to do this. No, he has been working on these movies. Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home, back to back to back to back. Because there's so much in these films. And he's been working on these movies non-stop. So I understand where he basically said, I want to take a break. You know, I'm going to step away. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to spend time with my wife and my kids. And then I'm going to go. I might do a couple smaller films. And then I might come back later for something else, you know. I hope he does come back. Because I thought Jon Watts did an amazing job with this trilogy. I think it's one of the best trilogies, superhero trilogies of all time. And from all angles, it's one of the best trilogies. And like, if you want to be technical, I don't like to get technical on people. Technically, it's better than the Sam Raimi trilogy. All 3 movies are in the 90s. All three movies collectively have made more money. All 3 movies have A to A+ cinema scores. All 3 movies have very high audience scores. In fact, Spider-Man Far From Home has a 95. So, statistically, from a subjective standpoint, technically Jon Watts made the superior trilogy. But that's nor here nor there. You know, some people like style and nostalgia. He's stuck in the past, but it's okay. It's why this modern version of Spider-Man was a little jarring to you. He's stuck in the past, you know, with your organic webbing and your cheesy dialogue, and it's okay. That's fine. But who will they get to replace him? Who will they get to direct Fantastic Four? There's a lot of names out there. There's a lot. And you know what? I'm going to save that for a separate video. Anyways, I'm shocked. But, you know, once it came out, why? I'm like, okay, I get it. You know, I get it. You know, worked on these massive movies back to back to back to back. I see why he would probably want to take a step down and be like, just want to go and do my own thing for a little bit and come back. But at least it was on a nice note. You know what I mean? It was on a nice note. And, you know, when it ends like that, when someone ends like that, they can always return. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does return for something. But I will say, it wasn't something that I was thinking about waking up this morning. I can tell you that. It was not something I was thinking about. But we don't really know the future of Spider-Man right now anyways, because, like, there's not a lot. Sony hasn't announced anything. Marvel, the only thing that's really been announced, like, on MCU Spider-Man or MCU-ish Spider-Man is really that freshman year show, and we still haven't really got too much on that. I'm sure we'll get more on that later this year, but we still haven't gotten too much on that. But, you know, I'm optimistic. You know, I'm for one in the Brad Bird camp, because Brad Bird does such an amazing job with The Incredibles, and like I remember so many people saying like this was a running joke for a long time in fandom, like Brad Bird already made the best Fantastic Four movie, you know, a movie about a family of superheroes. So it's like clearly he knows how to handle that kind of source material. I don't know if you could get him to come and do that, because outside of The Incredibles, he does a lot of serious films. But it would be great if you can get Brad Bird on to do this, like, cause like he understands it, because that's the key. It's the special sauce to the MCU is the character. Character. All the other shit is whatever. But as long as they get the character, which is why I was so excited about Jon Watts, because I'm like, his character work in these Spider-Man movies are fucking amazing. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping they find a suitable replacement. And I'm hoping Jon Watts comes back one day. Who knows? Maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll come back and do the sequel. He'll come back and be like, all right, well, I'll do the sequel. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. What do you think about Jon Watts stepping down? Personally, I'm very disappointed. I love his Spider-Man trilogy, but I understand why he had to do what he had to do. Anyways, thank you guys again. I'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.